Hey, if you're over 30 and you keep restarting in your discipline, fitness, money, confidence, whoa, let's stop right there. This isn't a motivational talk. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 3 secrets to rebuild momentum in your life, slowly, deliberately, and permanently, so it can't be broken down. No hustle culture, no fake positivity, no wins, no big yelling hype. Just timeless, solid principles applied consistently so your life stops resetting and starts moving forward. You know, if you're over 30 and you've been, a little bit stuck maybe, feeling behind, quietly disappointed in your life or where you've got to, you're not alone and you're not broken. You're just never taught how to build something that lasts. You just arrived at where you are. And because you weren't taught to build something that lasts, that matters, because the real danger isn't failure, right? We've all failed a little bit. That's not the danger. The danger is getting to a point where we're drifting quietly, silently, until the years just disappear. Now, failure, we know, is loud, right? You fail, it's like it catches your attention, you're just on. But drift is silent, right? It's quiet, it's under, you can't even see it. Failure gets your attention, drift just convinces you that, yep, it'll be okay next week. And drift is why so many people wake up at 30, 40, 50 and beyond and think, how the heck did I get here? Well, here's what I'm going to give you today. By the end of this video, you are going to know exactly why you keep restarting, and you're going to have a simple day one protocol that you can start tonight. And if you want the full 90-day structure, I'll tell you about that at the end. But first, you need the truth about what's happening. Most people think that they've got a motivation problem. If I just got more motivated, I could make things happen. If I just, worked at it harder. Well, that's not really what it is. They don't have a motivation problem. They have a comfort drift problem. It means we got comfortable and we started drifting because it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's sort of okay, comfort, except long term. And once comfort becomes your default setting, then you start restarting every time life gets hard, because your system is trained to protect comfort, not build strength. But when you turn 30, something starts to happen. And mostly it's because we got where we thought we wanted to be for the moment, or we started to settle. And it's not because we got weaker. It's because we started optimizing for stability. We got a job that was okay, had okay money, bills. They just piled up and we kept adding to them. New car, new house, etc., etc. Relationships, we got involved and put down roots, and we got into routines. And it's not that stability is evil. It has nothing to do with that. But when stability becomes your ceiling, then growth becomes optional. And if growth is optional, that's when drift begins. People don't decide to waste the years away, right? We don't decide, I'm just going to drift along here. They just keep telling themselves, I'll get back to it when things calm down. Things don't ever calm down, right? If you think about it, life keeps lifing along, right? Things just keep happening. So your goals get postponed, your standards get lower, and starting over starts to become your identity. And where do you feel behind right now? So let's do a quick audit. Is it your body? You're not happy with where you are physically, money, relationships, maybe it's your purpose. And don't overthink this. Just pick one for right now, because the system I'm about to tell you about applies to all of them. And listen, if you already know you want the 90-day rebuild and with structure and accountability and a step-by-step system, the link's in the description below. No pressure, but stay with me for the 3 secrets first, because if you don't understand the secrets, you're just going to keep restarting over and over and over and over, even with a good program. Let's just pause for a minute and take a look at my client, Kate. She, from the outside, had all the great stuff, super loaded with ambition, tons of effort, but a little inconsistent with momentum, right? Because she had no direction and no clarity. She would go hard and then not understand why things weren't happening, so she'd back off. And then, of course, everything would stall. Once we put the momentum system in place, got her some real good structure, clarity about where she wanted to go, and some signposts along the way so she could measure progress, she just took off, right? She was no longer searching around for the next magic potion, silver bullet, whatever. She was on track and going, all because we applied the tools consistently and daily. And that brings us to secret number 1. Comfort isn't neutral, okay? Comfort is moving in either two directions. It's either recovery or decay. So we're either recovering or we're in decay. And if you never choose controlled discomfort, you choose. Life will choose it for you, randomly, violently, and on its own schedule, okay? So you have to choose discomfort so your body and your brain gets used to it first. Here are 4 zones where drift hides in your life. Physical discomforts, like training, like conditioning yourself. Sleep discipline, how well you're sleeping, and your food choices. Skill discomfort, well, how you're learning and what you're building competence in, right? We can get just stagnated, drifting along right where we are. Financial discomfort, this happens to everybody. We start living paycheck to paycheck and, well, it's not great, but we're making it, so it's okay. So, it's discomfort with saving, budgeting, building income. And then there's all your social discomfort, right? Where you have to, you're putting off those hard conversations that you need to have. You're not setting the boundaries. You're not providing any leadership. And if you avoid tension in these zones, right? These zones are supposed to be areas where you apply some discomfort. If you avoid tension in these zones, you don't stay the same. You slide backwards. You actually drift backwards. And I want you to go through and score each of those zones from 0 to 10. Not what you want it to be, okay? Where it is right now. And be real honest with yourself because that really matters. If your scores are low, here's the truth. You didn't lose momentum because you broke them. You lost momentum because you removed the tension from your life. No tension means no growth. It's just like weightlifting. If you don't increase the weight or increase the repetitions, you don't get any improvement, right? So you have to make sure that you're applying. And no growth means you get complacent and start to drift. You just float along. Let's take a look at what this looks like in real life. It's Tuesday. You're tired. Work was hard. And your brain says, I'll go to the gym tomorrow. Or I'll start eating better next week. I'll order a pizza tonight because I don't want to cook. Or I'll just handle that project tomorrow or the next day. Well, it's not laziness. It's not that you're lazy. It's your system inside your head protecting comfort, right? The fix isn't more motivation, more hype, somebody rah, 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 rah. It's scheduled friction. Understanding that you have to apply a small, controlled, non-negotiable discomfort that keeps you sharp, keeps you focused. Choose your discomfort on purpose, right? Daily, while it's small. Otherwise, life's going to choose for you later when it's big. And that's not being inspirational. That's just physics, right? You can have the small amount of pain now or the pain of regret forever. And here's your first surgical thing that you're going to do. Tonight, take 10 minutes, right? 5 of those minutes, let's do some movement. Go for a walk, do some sort of physical activity. Then I want you to make 3 decisions about these aspects. 1, good food choices. 2, proper sleep regimen, right? Same bedtime, no phone before you go to sleep, etc., etc. And 1 task you're going to complete tomorrow, right? Doesn't have to be the super hard task, but just 1 task you're going to complete tomorrow. Then choose 1 uncomfortable action, just 1. A message you've avoided sending out, maybe a workout that you've been dodging, or maybe a boundary that you haven't been setting with somebody in your life, okay? And this is how we're going to retrain our brain and how we retrain our identity. Small standards executed consistently. And it's small and consistent that make the biggest difference. Let's take a look at my client, Sue. she was in bad shape. She'd totally hit rock bottom. Had to overcome terrible mindset, identity. She was a single mom, bad relationship, no job, trying to get something going, but just been driven down deeper and deeper into despair until that was her identity. Just floating along, not even getting by. We got together, implemented the Success Momentum program, got some structure for her first, and started getting her to execute regularly, consistently, very small actions at first. And she even said to me, she said, at the very start, she had to just trust and blindly follow the program, the structure. And it was a big thing for her. She started making massive headway after 2 months. One big key was separating out the emotion and putting execution in. So it was tangible, measurable actions that she was taking, not just swirling around in a sea of despair, because that broke her identity and now made the execution part of her, the do it, was part of her identity, right? And so that became the thing. She just did the stuff she had to do. She wasn't questioning it. She wasn't doubting it. She was just doing it. That brings us to secret number 2. Goals don't run your life. We all love to set goals, and everywhere you need to set goals. But standards actually run your life. Goals are what we want out there in the future. They might be short-term goals, but they're still out there in the future. Standards are what we tolerate every day, every moment. In the now is where we apply our standards. And your life is always going to be a reflection of what you tolerate. Most people set goals, when they get inspired, right? You read something or see something, maybe somebody your age completely changed their body, right? They got super fit, lost a lot of weight. Now they're looking really good, beach ready. And you think, that's it. That inspired me so much. I'm going to go set that same goal and go. Well, life is hard and getting to somewhere takes work. And that's what happens, right? If our execution depends on those high emotions all the time, that super motivational thing, the goal is going to become optional because stuff's going to get in the way and motivation's not going to push us past that. Okay? Motivation's not going to take us there. It'll get us there for the first few days, but after that, it becomes work. And then we start to really struggle to make it happen. When you have standards as your default, execution as your default, standards don't negotiate with moods or emotions, right? Standards are simply what you do. They are just actions, no emotions involved. A standard's a rule that you follow, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard. And the reason is standards work is simple. They remove decision fatigue. And what is decision fatigue? That means you don't have to decide whether you're going to do it or not, right? You just make it happen. You take the action. And that's because you've made the action so small, so easy to do, they're non-negotiable. You don't have another choice. And so you don't debate. You just execute. And that's the key. All right, here's a template for you. Take 3 non-negotiable things, right? One for your body, one for your money, your finances, and one for your craft, your skill, purpose, output, one of those things. Don't choose 10. Choose 3, one in each of those areas, because consistency beats volume and intensity. Everybody thinks they need to change everything all at one time. It's not true. You just need to get moving in the correct direction with the correct structure, right? Because consistency is everything. Now, write those non-negotiables down. Make them small enough that you can do them without even having to think about it, right? Because the goal is not heroics here. It's not taking a huge leap and becoming somebody else tomorrow. The goal is redefining your identity by choosing execution over drifting, right? So the goal is identity installation. Reinstall an identity that's built around execution. It's crucial. All right. And you don't rise to your goals, right? We all know that, right? You don't climb to your goals. You fall to whatever your lowest standard is, whatever your standard is. And if your standard is, I'll try, then you'll try and fail, because this is what's been happening. This is why you're drifting. If your standard is, I execute, you will execute, especially when it gets hard or boring, because there's no choice. You have no decision to make, just to execute. So if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, that's exactly me this last little while. I'm starting over, I'm drifting, I'm being inconsistent, I'm procrastinating a lot, I'm beating myself up all the time, I'm constantly looking at those get rich quick things or get skinny quick things, always looking for the next silver bullet or magic potion. Good, because now you know the problem isn't your potential. It's not anything outside of you. It's your structure inside of you. And if you want a structure that holds you to standards, that's what my momentum system is. And I'm going to show it to you at the end of I'm going to talk about the system at the very end of the video. Let's take a look at another one of my clients. This Paul was so fun to work with. He was a business guy, probably around, at the time I worked with him, 50 years old. And he was actually doing okay. Okay, right? That's one of those words that means we're drifting. I'm doing okay. Things are pretty good. That's how his performance was. And because his performance was like that, he was having inconsistent discipline, which is inconsistent execution. So he'd go hard marketing for a while in his business, then he'd get some clients, and then he'd cruise through those, and he wouldn't be marketing. So then he'd end up with a phase with no clients. And so he was just going through. One of his big problems was he wasn't ever really acknowledging his wins, his successes. And so he was always just looking at what was wrong, what was wrong, what was wrong, what was wrong, what was wrong. And so you can imagine what that does to your psyche, right? It just pushes you down because you're like depressed because things aren't going the way you want it. Implemented the system, got him going, put these things into place, right? Put the focus and discipline, got locked in. Consistent execution just meant that he had regular results all the time, which meant he was going up, 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 up. Just blew his business out of the water. In 6 months, he eclipsed his 1.5-year goal, 18-month goal, financial goal, number goal. So he started choosing standards, what he did all the time, over his goals. His targets, short-term targets, became more important than the goal. In fact, it was funny. He said to me when he, at the 6-month point, we met, and he goes, I have a real big problem. And I go, oh, what's that problem? And he says, I just eclipsed my long-term income goal by this month. What do I do now? I said, set new goals. How hard is that? We set new targets, build a new direction for you, change for the better. And so he was really fun to work with once he got going. But it was, again, he was just stuck and drifting. Remember, we all drift at different levels. We're not all at the rock bottom. Some of us are at an okay place, but we're still drifting because there's more that we wanted. There was more we thought we could do. There was more we could actually achieve. That brings us to secret number 3. Your environment, what you build around you and in you, beats willpower. Everybody thinks willpower is this thing, but it isn't, right? If you rely on willpower, you're going to eventually lose, because willpower sort of depends on motivation. And this isn't because you're weak, right? Willpower does not, just because we stop talking about willpower doesn't mean you're weak. It's just because you're human. Life takes over, things happen, busyness, jobs come up, things change, we have to move in a different direction, seasons change, right? It's all sorts of stuff that happen around us. So we're just human. So we got to rely on more than willpower, which means we need a system that can change with us, right? And that's the whole idea of the momentum program. It changed with us. When we get over 30, one of the biggest things that we run into is isolation. Isolation just becomes kind of normal, right? You have fewer friends around you, fewer peers, fewer people willing to give you honest conversations, honest answers, because They have fewer people, so they don't want to have even fewer people, right? Fewer people that are going to tell you the truth about what you're doing, the truth of what your system's looking like. And this is when drift becomes normal because you stop noticing it. Everything just sort of starts gliding along. And it's not bad. You just get into a routine, a rut, over and over and over again. And it takes a real strong person to recognize that they're in that rut. And that's why you're sitting here watching this video right now. You're already 5 steps ahead of lots of your peers because they're just going to keep floating along, right? And so good job for you already. Let's take a look at the environmental ladder, right? There's 3 parts to it, 3 levels. Content is the lowest level. This is the stuff that's coming into you, right? What you're watching, what you're consuming, what you're learning. This is like real low level stuff. And this is where most of us sit at, right? We would rather watch 50 people who are successful on Facebook rather than pushing ourselves, rather than instigating a structure into our lives, right? We'd rather live precariously through them. Accountability, once you move through that, accountability is the next level. And this is where the momentum program really kicks into gear because it holds you accountable, okay? Both by the training it gives you, the structure it builds you, and by the coaching that it gives you, right? It keeps you accountable because someone sees your execution, right? Every time somebody has to see it, it means more to you. So therefore, you're going to take more of it. The highest level, of course, is immersion. This is when you put yourself totally in there and you start to redevelop your identity away from adrift, away from stalled, away from being in the rut, away from settling, away from stagnation, away from complacently. And you start making standards your default. When you're doing this is when standards become your default. Listen carefully. You don't need more scrolling. You don't need more AI telling you the correct program you need to do today. You need to get immersed in yourself and your structure, okay? You need to get immersed. Make standards your default. Make execution your identity. All right. People around you normalize excuses. What's the thing they say all the time that somebody can predict your success by your 5 closest friends? Because you're not going to go much past them, right? You all end up being kind of the same. So if your circle of people normalizes excuses, then excuses are going to be okay. They're safe, right? If the people around you execute, then execution becomes normal for you. Now, this isn't personality. This is conditioning, right? Behavioralists have done this for years. This is how do we condition ourselves for success, right? Andrew, he was a great client to look at for this because he was former military, conditioned to that life, full 20 years in, right? So he was, really, really a good military guy, proven performer, right? He wanted to start a business when he got out. In between being the soldier and then being the business guy, he had all the skills, all the knowledge, all that stuff was fine. What he lost was his identity. He couldn't transfer what he'd learned and applied in the military because he was an execution expert there, not executions, but he executed his duties and what he had to do every day, right? All of a sudden in his business, he wasn't that guy. And that created a pile of doubts, right? This is what happens to lots of us. We move to something new or we start a new goal and all of a sudden we start doubting, can we get there, right? So big confidence dip. And that stalled him, right? And then drift sets in. Well, drift makes despair. Despair makes more doubts. Doubts makes more drift. Whirlpool of death right there, right? So we put the program in place. Got him to build a real good structure. started recognizes all of his small wins. That's one of the keys here. You have to start recognizing your wins, not just looking at all your mistakes all the time. Recognize your wins, because we want to be able to replicate more of those. How do you learn from a mistake how to win? There is no correlation there. You have to learn from a win how to replicate that win and how to make it better, right? So we gave him a consistent approach to go, and we set up his business guy standards. His military standards were still there. We just had to make some of them transferable to his business guy standards. Then his identity came back, and he became, wow, his business just went crazy. He was getting brought into huge companies to do, performance workshops with people and take them through a lot of the military kind of exercises and all sorts of stuff. It was a real good thing for him to transition to, because it really made a massive difference, okay? And, this is where we sort of come to a conclusion, really. You can't install standards in environments alone if you've been drifting for years. Just like my clients. They've been going along for a long time, couldn't get out of the rut. I've been there myself. Could not get out of the rut myself. I had to reach out to somebody. For me, it was my coach. And we had to sit down together and redo this for me. We had to reinstall proper system, proper structure, proper getting my identity back as an execution expert, right? You can try to do it on you. You can try and try and try, but it's trying and then failing is what's created the cycle you're in right now, the drift cycle. Structure is going to end it. And this is where we come to the Stone Age momentum system, right? It's a 90-day rebuild, standards-based, for men and women who are done. You're finished restarting. You're finished drifting. No more sitting here wishing, hoping, dreaming that you'd gotten farther, that you'd gotten to where you wanted. It's not a hype program. We're going to build a structure in your life. We're going to start with the foundation, figure out what's been happening and how we can use that structure in the execution and the targets and the roadway to get you where you're going, a controlled environment. We're going to rebuild your identity from the ground floor up. Now, who's this for? If you're over 30, if you're tired of restarting, if you're fed up with wishing, hoping, dreaming, and you want something more than just some motivation off of Facebook or TikTok or wherever your friends or wherever else you're getting all the hype and discipline, hype and motivation, if you want discipline without burning yourself out, if you want some growth without all the hype and yelling and chasing, and get back your self-respect without trying a million different shortcuts, magic potions, silver bullets, then this is for you. What you're going to get inside the program is a daily discipline system, so you just stop all this guesswork, right? We're going to analyze where you are. We're going to figure out what the triggers were that got you in this situation, and it's all going to be clarified, right? Then we're going to put up a weekly reset framework, which catches drifting. A daily regime so that you have execution every day without deciding, right? It'll become automatic for you because there's no negotiation there. Then we're going to have coaching calls, to help you stay accountability so you don't deceive yourself, right? That's part of the thing. Remember the immersion ladder, accountability is just before the immersion part where we start holding you accountable. That's what the community is about. That's what the coaching calls are about. And you're in the private standards-based community where everybody's installing their own standards, getting back their identity, putting up execution, and reaching way above where they were before. So you'll be able to share and see and use each other for support there as well, because success is never an alone game. It's always a team. Anything I've ever accomplished big in my life always was a team. I even think back to like when I built my catamaran. and I was building a sailing catamaran. I'd never built anything like that in my life before. And I was building it by myself, but I was using my friend's shed. And every now and then he'd give me a hand to hold something or do some welding. And my wife was supporting me because, it wasn't always fun, and she had to put up with me coming home with epoxy stuck in my hair and all that other stuff. And my friends were supporting me because they didn't call me crazy and try to get me locked up. So it was a team effort. Even though I was primarily doing the work, I was doing the executing every day, doing the tasks. It was still a team thing that was together. So the program has the community for you to be involved in. 90 days. 90 days is easily long enough to reinstall your identity, to start making all of this automatic for you, to get you back sharp again, get your edge back, not get motivated, because we want you to repeat. What you repeat becomes who you are, right? You know that. What you say is who you're going to be. So we want you to start doing who you're going to be. That's your identity. Let's look at Katrina, another one of my candidates that was in the same thing. She came out of the creative world, right? So she was super creative. She was very self-motivated, very task-oriented, and already was pretty disciplined at doing stuff every day. But she was still drifting. She was trying to get a business going. She was just couldn't get it moving. Part of it was she was thinking that because she was so creative, that structure would hamper her, that it would slow her down, that it would curtail her creativity. Total wrong answer. Structure allows you to be more that way, right? Putting systems in place gives you the time where your brain doesn't have to think back about the stuff you're supposed to be doing. You just can go into the creation mode. So we put in a good, solid structure for her. Daily discipline with spaces for her to do her creative stuff. Weekly themes with outcomes that she had to meet. So with lots of accountability. For her and I, we were even texting each other. She would text me daily with what she was supposed to do today, what she did do today, and what she can do better tomorrow. Very simple, very easy. And her business went crazy. She was flooded with clients. It was really fun to watch because I'd never worked with a person in the creativity area before. I'd always very much been the business guys, athletes sort of thing. But she was really fun to work with because, man, she had so much energy and was like champing at the bit to go forward, but just didn't have the structure to allow her to move forward. As soon as it got put in, output increased, and she just went crazy forward. Price for enrollment, $597, or 3 payments of $227. After the 90 days, you get 3 months of the community in the package. After the 90 days, you can continue in the community where you get twice a month live coaching calls. I monitor the chat daily at $49 a month to stay in that. You still get the calls, still get the monitored chat. You just stay in the room with the other students, so you can still, be part of that community, share, support each other, right? Team. And the point isn't the number. The point is the commitment, right? That's the difference here. Everybody always thinks it's the number, but it's really not. If I was to sell you this program for $97, you'd treat it like a $97 program. You'd dabble, you'd ghost it, you'd blame the program when the real issue was you never committed. Think about how many things you've downloaded or how many things you've enrolled in that are $20, $30, $40, and you never look at them. You never pull them up, right? The price is set where commitment begins. The real risk isn't losing any money. The real risk is staying comfortable. The real risk is waking up after another 12 months of drifting, restarting, failing, pretending, lying to yourself. That costs more than money. That costs time. That costs self-respect. And that costs your identity. If you're ready to stop drifting, click the link in the description, enroll in the Stone Age Momentum System. Start day one today. Don't wait for the perfect week. Don't wait for the perfect month. Build standards inside the week you actually have right now, right? There's no better time to get going than this moment, right? We all know that's the best time to start. And here's the line I want you to remember. The risk isn't losing. The risk is waking up at 35, 40, 50, 60 years old and realizing you haven't moved at all. You're with the same rut, the same place, the same everything, drifting along. Time just passing you by. And then you know what comes? The shoulda, woulda, couldas, right? I should have done that, I could have done that, and I would have done that. Let's not be there. If you're done starting over, move now. Take the initiative. No hustle culture, no fake positivity in the program, no quick wins. Just timeless principles applied consistently. See you inside.